Hey Care Group leaders, how are you guys doing? I hope you're having a great week. For Care Group, we're going to be talking about building God's house. This is a fun and practical message that can have some really cool real life application. So what we're going to do is, or what I would like to do today is just kind of go over the essence of the material and then give you one way to make the most out of your discussion. So the first thing that you'll notice is this discussion is going to draw heavily from an Old Testament story. So this story is the story of when God tells Moses to have the people build for him a tabernacle, a dwelling place. And the purpose of this is so that God can dwell with his people. So there are going to be three themes that you want to focus in on to apply to our situation. So the first one is the whole picture of God building a dwelling place and how God, he doesn't build it on his own, but he invites the people to build it with him. And in the same way, what we want to tell people or get across, the point we want to get across is this. God is still building a dwelling place, except it's not a tabernacle. What he's building is the church. He's not building a physical home, but a spiritual one. And the reason why he's building up the church is because he wants to dwell among us. He wants to dwell among his church. And so that's the first point. And in the same way that God invited the Israelites to partner with him in building the tabernacle, God wants to partner with us in building up the church. And so what we're going to do is, I think that a natural question is, well, what kind of church is God building? What kind of house is he building? And that's why we're going to go real briefly to Ephesians chapter 2. If you look at the first point under God is still building his dwelling place, we're going to go to Ephesians chapter 2 real quick to point out that God wants to build a church that is built on the foundation of the gospel and whose doors are open to everyone. So maybe you can ask a question like, okay, what would it be like to have what does a church that is built on the gospel, what does that look like in real life? Or how can a church be open to everyone? Or what can a church do that either welcomes people or, excludes people? Those are some practical or thought-provoking questions that you can ask. Point number 2, the next thing you want to draw on is God's command for the people to bring him an offering from what they have, and an offering that offerings that vary from gold to goat hair to acacia wood. If you read the story, there are just all kinds of different things that God asked the people to offer. And so what we want to take from that is, today, as we partner with God in building up the church, each of us is asked to bring a unique contribution to the building up of the church. And so what we want to ask is, what are the different ways people can contribute toward what God is doing in the church? How can we contribute toward building up the church? What are the various contributions that people can make? And so that's like the main point there. I want to get people thinking about, okay, how can I contribute, or how can someone contribute toward building up the church, and what might that look like? So we want to focus in on that picture of people bringing a variety of different gifts, and that's a beautiful picture of the church. Everyone in the church can bring a unique contribution of some sort. So the last image we want to focus on, or not image, but theme, is the reoccurring theme of willingness. So in point 3, the question is, are you willing? And we get this from the fact that 5 times in Exodus chapter 35, Moses, he uses this word willing. God says for those who are willing to bring an offering, and then later we read that those who were willing brought their offering. So this theme of willingness is emphasized over and over and over again. So one, we want to highlight the truth that when it comes to building up the church, the challenge isn't whether or not we have the resources or the spiritual gifts to do so, but do we have the willingness? That is the challenge, is are we willing to contribute toward what God is doing? So some thought-provoking questions or discussion points can be, what hinders people from being willing to just offer what they have? Or how can the church inspire willingness? Or what does the church do to extinguish willingness or to discourage willingness? Those are some thought-provoking questions you can ask, and then we want to apply it. So we want to ask people, okay, how can you contribute toward building up a church that is built on the gospel and that is open to everyone? And why are you unwilling, or are you willing? Some questions like that. And I think just a principle when it comes to leading discussions is one of the ways to get the most out of a discussion is to have some kind of action point. If you put something in people's hands that they can take home and apply right away, that is going to give people a sense that, hey, I actually got something from this. And I didn't just get knowledge that I can't use, but I gained an understanding, I gained knowledge, and I have something to do with this knowledge. So what you want to do is have an action plan or an action step at the end of every discussion. And this week, I think, is the perfect discussion to have some kind of action plan. It's a very practical discussion, and your action plan could be something like, all right, we're going to go around the room, and I want everyone to share, how are you going to contribute toward building up the church this week? What are you going to do to build up the church this week? And there you go. You would have a very practical action step for people to use or to respond to. So this is my tip for the day or for the week. I hope you guys have a great discussion. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything I can do to help you prepare. Just shoot me an email at jmendez@ifgfla.com or give me a text or phone call at 626-542-5619. Have a great care group discussion, guys. We're praying for you, and I'll see you around.